Freshness wins.
Fresh wins.
Yes,
Yes. I like
yes,
that
yes.
message. I like that message. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Fit Access News. I'm your host, Danielle Willis. Joining me again is IFBB Pro and Champ, Helle Trevino. And today with us, we have two amazing guests. We have Nick Chan and Stefan Kienzl. They are going to contribute to this panel today as we prepare for the Miss Olympia going on in less than a week. We're about to start peak week, everybody. I'm just going to kick it off to Helle.
So this is going to be super interesting. We have two coaches with us here. Nick, you are specialized in training. Let's start with you first. I know you have a few competitors in the show. You also worked with me last year for last year's Olympia. So I want to ask you, what goes into the training of an Olympian athlete? Like, how do you go about it? What's like the important aspects that you're focusing on?
I think the biggest thing, especially as you're going towards show, is understanding how to manage like volume and like load, right? Like that, and as at the same time staying injury free, as you're very well aware of, is the
Yes.
two kind of like most important aspects. It's like how do you manage volume and intensity while keeping intensity the highest, but staying injury free at the same time. So there's a lot of small nuances and aspects that go around that, and the better athlete you get, the more specific these variables you have to kind of like define them.
So in your training with athletes, is off season a lot different than on season in terms of training? Now you're talking about volume.
Definitely off season, there's a bit more volume. The intensity is definitely a little bit higher, just because you have more food. It's a bit of a safer time. You're not like dieting down. You're not mentally drained all the time either. But definitely still into the show. I still like to keep the intensity up. I find that if you're going like too high volume, like you have to imagine that like that's a lot of just cardiovascular stress, and you're already on
Right.
low food. You're already doing cardio, and now you're expecting me to do I don't know what 30 sets. It's like
Right.
there's no way you're gonna burn right out.
Where do you keep it at? What's a good both rep range and sets? Where would you be at in the pre-contest?
Pre-contest, that depends so much on the person and like their recovery. It's hard for me to like say like, yeah, just do 5 sets of legs and you're going to be good, or 6 sets of legs. It depends on how well conditioned the athlete is as well. It all depends on how often you can recover from it and what your needs are. You know, someone in wellness and someone in women's bodybuilding, totally different needs, right? You're not training
Right.
upper body like crazy in wellness, but with something like bodybuilding, you need more of a balanced physique. So you have to take those things into account.
People want to kind of put things in boxes. And that's why I think it's important to have a coach or have a trainer. It's very individual.
Incredibly. And like you said, like the higher tier the athlete is, the more specific it gets.
I worked with you for last year's Olympia, and what I really loved was, I mean, now I also came off a big surgery in January. It made all the difference to really work with a professional. I mean, now you also, your expertise is also in injury recovery, prevention, rehab. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely with a lot of the pros I do is I work with a lot of injury prevention and injury recovery. Like it sucks getting to the point of injury recovery. I'd rather be at the prevention part, and it's a lot easier. Something I always stress to everyone, athlete or not athlete, to take care of your joints. Longevity is something I stress huge with all my athletes. Think of your career as a total. Where do you want it to be?
Do you do a lot of mobility training in your workouts?
It depends on the person and their needs. I do stress it a lot just because the way I think about training might be a little bit different than other people. You're only as strong as your capacities. One of my goals with all you guys, yourself especially, is to build the strongest kind of internal capacity. So strongest shoulders possible, strongest spine possible. Then guess what? Deadlifting, rows, all that stuff gets really easy because you already have those internal capacities.
When I started bodybuilding, it wasn't really talked about mobility. Along the way, I've had, my fair share of injuries. Once you have something, you really have to put work in to repair it. Had I known earlier and I would have done mobility training all the years, it might never have happened. Every athlete should have some mobility training. In Olympia, who do you got?
So we got Terrence. We got Terrence at Classic Physique, so Rough Diesel, and Tiffany. Tiffany Sam, his wife, going in wellness.
Yeah.
And they both look really, really good.
I
You've
did
been
want to
in
interject
Tampa?
really quick.
Yeah. Yes.
Before we go too far. Now you're talking about mobility and as it pertains to athletes.
Everyone always looks at mobility training as in like too late. So the biggest thing I think to separate between, I guess, flexibility, mobility training, all that is that flexibility is passive. You want to produce force in a certain area, your mobility training has to reflect that. It also has to be active type of work. I think that's the most important thing.
Right there. There are coaches that I've worked with, they don't even put that as an important. And Stefan, really quick, I spoke with Sherry. She said you're the same way. When she goes into the gym and she sends you her video, you're checking her form, you're checking those little things. But again, not all coaches are paying attention to those little things, which can add up to a big injury, correct?
Yeah, I'm totally with everything Nick says. Not only of the injury side, also of the how an athlete will develop. Bodybuilding is a symmetry sport, and bodybuilding is a sport of balance and well balanced physiques. And it's not just going there and train somehow. You know, he said one beautiful thing. Even the execution of the exercise might be for one totally right and for the other totally wrong, because in the end it comes to getting a balanced physique for your needs. For me, I'm now into the bodybuilding coaching game since 17 years, and I come from a medical background. I studied medicine, when I started bodybuilding by myself, I was super injured before. I have a part artificial knee, I had a torn chest, I had a broken spine, I had a broken shoulder, and then I started with training after that. So I always had to think about how can I maximize all the processes to still build a balanced physique and not hurt the body more than the body is hurted. And bodybuilding often is a sport with people who start into bodybuilding as a first sport, but they start to train, the muscles get shortened, they are not taking care of mobility, they're getting small injuries, they work over it, they overdo it, and then they are fucked totally 15 years after. And then sometimes they think it can be reversed in 2 months. It's not possible to get reversed in 2 months because you just didn't do the work you should do from the beginning. Advice for everybody out there who is a beginner: take care about the whole aspect of the sports, which is nutrition, which is training, which is recovery, which is therapy, which is mobility. They are all must be balanced. Otherwise, you won't have longevity in the sport, and otherwise you won't fulfill your potential.
That was so well said. Yeah. It's so funny because I did talk recently with someone who talked about that same aspect where like you can go into any sport and they're so much more prepared than anyone in bodybuilding. And it's a prerequisite.
Found to be very hard is to find people that are qualified.
Some of the biggest guys just had luck, you know. They had supreme genetics. They for sure they had brilliant work ethic. I won't discuss that, but injury wise, they did everything right and it worked, you know.
But it's not going to work for everybody.
95% out there don't have that luck and that genetic to naturally find the right path for them.
You are assembling a team from scratch. Anybody want to interject on this? It doesn't matter. When they are assembling a team of coaches, I know we've talked about the important things you need to do.
I think more important than finding the right coach, which is the next step and comes after, is that the athlete have the attention on the important thing. When you start to train, most of us, and we all started quite the same, we are meatheads and just want to train and hit hard in the gym and want to do a personal record after each other and want to get stronger to a point where correct exercise form is just a catastrophe. The mindset of the athlete must be the first thing which needs to have the possibility that person reach their potential. Equally take care about mobility, therapy, recovery, training, nutrition, need to come out of the athlete.
Nick, anything you want to add to that?
I totally agree with what Stefan was saying. It's definitely a big part of the athlete's job to be in that mindset. And just to be clear about exactly what their goals are.
I want to
Now,
ask Stefan also regarding the diet. You
Mhm.
got Sherry in for women's bodybuilding. What's important during the prep?
It's quite the same that Nick also said before when it comes into nutrition. You need to find the balance that the athlete still has performance, but anyway, you need to shred that fat. So you must go into a caloric deficit that needs to be bigger for one person than for the other person, but control fatigue and do really daily steps of deciding what is the right turn is the key to success. I took a look at her performance. I took a look at how she actually was feeling. I took a look how was the sleep, and then we had our baseline calories. And then I said, for example, today we're gonna do 150 gram carbs more. Today we're gonna do 200 grams of carbs more. Today we are gonna do 50 grams of carbs more, depending on how she feel, how she looked, and how her recovery was. So I think when it really comes to top level competitors, those fine tuning and to read between the lines, how the athlete feels, how he reacts, how the performance is the key role to, in the end, maximize condition, muscle fullness. Know if I can say it in English the same than in German, but I would call it freshness. One part why Andrea, for example, is so good. She looks always so unfucking believable fresh on stage. You know,
She never
and
looks like
yeah.
starved out, or like
Yes.
you diet
Yeah.
for a long time and your muscles get this tired look. Like she
Yes,
never has
exactly.
that.
And
yes,
that's my perfect picture of bodybuilding, no matter which class. You know, that's
Mhm.
that freshness look is my perfect picture of bodybuilding. For sure, we must get into condition, and for sure there are hard days, and for sure we have to starve, but that needs to get into balance.
Yeah.
I just look day after day. I
Yeah.
know that's sometimes annoying for athletes. You never know how was the night, how did you sleep, which sorrows did you had, how intense was your job day, did I have a car accident, did the dog run away, or whatever can happen.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
are all things you need to consider and work into the perfect prep.
I'm a coach myself, so I'm the same way. Like I work from update to update with what we got, and there's never a plan, long-term plan. There's a date, but however we get there, that's to be determined daily.
So the message is, athletes, you want to get with a coach that is meticulous as possible to ensure that on your show day, you're looking fresh.
Freshness wins.
Fresh wins.
Yes,
Yes. I like that
yes.
message. I like that message. Any last words you want to say, Stefan, as you now we're 1 week out, as you get close to this Olympia with Sherry, with your athlete?
I would say quite uninteresting. It's just cruising into the show. Drop fatigue, go down with intensity of training, drop out all the cardio, and then 2 days before the show, go up with the carbs. That's it.
You got to find a team that caters to your strengths, that knows your genetics, knows whether you look best coming in fuller, or knows whether you look best coming in a little bit tighter, a little bit more conditioned. But the main takeaway is you got to do what's best for you. And it's not one size fits all. So don't
Training and diet.
Training and diet and recovery. So you can't really look to the top.
No.
You can be inspired, sure, but you can't look at someone like Helle or Andrea or whomever is in the top, right? And say, I want to come in looking like that, and that's going to work for me, because right there, you've already lost. You have to do what's best for you. On that note, does anyone have any last words?
Everybody should enjoy the show.
Yes. I would love for you guys also to, if anybody out there wants to work with you guys, that you give up your contact, where to find you.
A message on Instagram, Boss of Outlaw.
Yeah, same here. You can find me on Instagram _Coach Nick Chan, CHAN.
All right. So Coach Nick Chan and Coach Stefan Kienzl, Boss of Outlaw. Thank you so much for your time and your words. We got a lot, and I'm sure the people watching this at home or wherever will get a lot too. Best of luck to both of you and your athletes in the coming week as we prepare for the 2023 Mr. Olympia. Thank you again to my co-host and colleague, Helle Trevino, for assembling this amazing team together and this amazing talk. And until next time, be good to yourselves. We will see you all Olympia week. Helle and I will be there, and you don't want to miss out. So
We will all be there.
we will all be there. Yes, yes.
I'm actually here. I'm in Orlando already.
There, you all stay fresh. We'll stay fresh, and we will see you at the Olympia.